On this edition of the Roundball Report, we'll recap the week that was on the local college basketball scene, present you with a special feature on the Wizards' recent contest against New Orleans, and we'll recap the week in the NBA for the Washington Wizards and the rest of the league as we speak with basketball analyst Kelsey Nelson from the University of Maryland and our very own Coach Jimmy Fly Hellman of HSRN. So sit back, relax, and get ready for your weekly dose of serious hoop talk because the Roundball Report is next.
Good one, son.
Last summer, my new dad took me on vacation. First, we went deep sea fishing.
Wow! I'm so proud of you, son.
And then we went on Thunder Shark. That was awesome! Let's go again. 3 times. I gotta say, it was pretty cool.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Oh, not again.
Hello, I'm Andrew Dyer, and welcome to another edition of the Roundball Report, the only show in the area dedicated to highlighting the excellence of the high school, college, and professional basketball teams which play in the Washington metropolitan area. And unfortunately, neither of my co-hosts, Janae Hayes nor Nikki Lewis, could be here tonight, but they will return as soon as their schedule permits. We're going to get things started tonight as we take a look at the local college basketball scene, as both the University of Maryland and Georgetown men had successful tournaments over the Thanksgiving holiday. And here with us to weigh in with their thoughts are a new member of the Roundball Report family, Kelsey Nelson, basketball analyst from the University of Maryland, and our very own Coach Jimmy Fly Hellman of HSRN. And Kelsey, I say new member, and it's tell them exactly how new, because you're new to the extent that you're a cusp on becoming a college graduate in communications.
Yes, literally 3 weeks, December 20th, I will be an official graduate of the University of Maryland, which I'm very excited about.
And what gives you your passion to have a career in the sports communications?
So I grew up with sports. My dad went to Grambling State, so obviously everybody knows the big rivalry and everybody that goes to Grambling State. My family's from the South, so obviously sports is everything, like sports is life. Grew up playing sports, played in middle school and high school. Unfortunately wasn't good enough to play in college, so the next best thing was being on the sidelines next to it and broadcasting it, and I absolutely love it.
Right, and I understand you earned an academic scholarship to go to the University of Maryland.
Yes, got a full academic scholarship.
And so, Jimmy, you know that's what we always say. Our motto at the end of the show is for all of you aspiring hoop stars out there, folks, your education is the first steps to making your hoop dreams come true. So even when the sports dreams on the field couldn't come in, that education was able to allow you to have this platform.
Exactly.
And you're at University of Maryland, and the University of Maryland men have gotten off to an outstanding start. I saw you at the Fordham game where Melo Trimble had perhaps his worst game of the year, but for the first McDonald's All-American they've had in the last 10 years, they went to the tournament in Kansas City, and he had quite a showing, won the MVP.
Exactly. I'm so excited. So I started Maryland in 2010. It's been a sad season, all 4 years at Maryland. So obviously Maryland getting their best start in 8 years now is amazing, especially them being undefeated. Like, it even feels weird coming out my mouth saying the Maryland men are undefeated. Melo Trimble has been literally a blessing to the University of Maryland. I can see him leading us very far. Obviously, I don't like to predict too far. I don't want to jinx us. But I think, like you said, at the CBE Hall of Fame Classic, he had a great showing. I know he was named today the co-Big Ten Player of the Week and Freshman of the Week, which is obviously great news for the school. And he also has obviously great assets on Maryland's team. But under him, I can see us going very, very far.
And she can legitimately say us since she goes to the school, Jimmy. But I mean, as a former coach and former point guard yourself, Coach Turgeon couldn't be happier for the first time. He's had talented guys playing the one, but it's the first time he's really had a true floor leader that is concerned about getting the team points, not just getting his. He scored 31 in that game against Arizona State, but then came back and basically managed the floor, and Turgeon was so excited. He said, I don't know how many points he had, but he did an incredible job running the floor, running the team.
Well, you remember we saw him when we did the Capitol Classic, and that was my first up-close view of him. And what I took away, and I said on the air that night, was that he reminded me a little bit of Juan Dixon. You know, physically, obviously, he's a bigger, stronger guy, but the shot, he's got a good shot.
His temperament.
Those types of things, the intangibles, the mental side of the basketball IQ, but also he's able to take physical contact and finish. He's been to the free throw line multiple games, 14 times, making 13. That's, you know, 95% and above free throw shooting. So that's a guy you can put the ball in his hand late, to close out games.
And that's exactly what they did. I mean, he was 2 points off of the freshman record in the game against Arizona State. Had 31 points. Joe Smith, no ordinary Joe. That's before your time. But anyway, he had 33 points in his freshman debut. Melo had 31. And to his credit, he didn't come back the next night on a national television game.
Exactly.
Didn't come back trying to duplicate that, but he did duplicate the victory and did what his team needed to win that night.
Exactly. And like you said, after the Fordham game, I was getting really scared about him. But obviously, it's like he showed up. It's like that game was like an awakening for him. And obviously, in the CBE Hall of Fame Classic, watching that was amazing to see him emerge. And it's like, okay, so he is. You remembered he's an All-American, and he was playing like it. And I think that's why everyone knows his name now.
And not just the McDonald's All-American portion of it, Coach Fly, playing a premier player in the WCAC and coming from this area and playing in a preeminent high school conference in the country, you can tell this kid is the moments aren't too big for him, even though he's a freshman.
No, he's poised. Now, he did have a couple bad moments in the Fordham. He's a freshman. So he's going to have a couple games, especially when you get into Big Ten play and he's playing against seniors and guys that are talented. He'll have some bad moments, but I think this guy can carry them. He's going to have to carry him early with the injury to Des Wells, which is a huge loss to Maryland, 16 points out of the starting lineup.
And that
the rebounding and the leadership, because he was your go-to closer down in the paint. So they're losing that, but they did gain Eric Smoltrich, came back, so they have him back in the rotation. 4 to 6 weeks, I heard, with the fractured wrist, possibly just 4. If it goes out to 6 weeks, I looked at the schedule, that takes you to mid-January. He could miss 5 to 6 Big Ten games. So that will put them at a disadvantage. Hopefully Des Wells gets healthy sooner rather than later. And
you'd hate to lose a guy like Des Wells, but the timing of it is good to cushion the blow. We saw the freshman Nickens, he had a coming out party as well. He had a great game against Iowa State and came back and played well again against Monmouth. And like you said, he got Smarters back. They've got Lehman and the other freshman Dion, was it Long?
Dion Wiley.
Dion Wiley. He's going to have to step up, but they've got a lot of pieces there. But as you said, in close games down the stretch, especially on the road in Big Ten, that's where they're going to miss a flat-out scorer like Des Wells.
Right, because I think everyone, when you thought of Maryland basketball this season, beforehand you thought Des Wells. Like literally, that's all you thought was Des Wells. And obviously, yes, we have Melo. I think Jake Lehman is another big piece of that. He's a very short shooter. It's very exciting watching him, but it's also nice to have the other freshman emerge because he's going to need help. But I guess, like he said, with Big Ten opponents coming up, it is kind of scary knowing Des Wells is going to be out there, and you kind of do need that big body presence. And he's not scared of anything. Like Des will literally go for everything.
And I'm sorry, but they do have and it's weird to say, but they have the Big Ten ACC challenge, but Maryland's actually
on
the Big Ten
side.
against Virginia.
And Jimmy, one of the things that's going to be interesting, I remember this time last year you were talking about seeing Maryland play against Morgan State and how you were impressed with Lehman and Smaltrich, but when they get to ACC season, those guys couldn't up their play and to continue to play at that level. Now, without Des Wells going, it's going to be imperative if Maryland's going to be successful that those two guys continue that level of play when the competition rises.
Well, exactly, and part of the problem with that injury is the attention would have been on Des Wells. Now the defensive focus will shift to Lehman, and he's I guess developed off the dribble move. And then they're taking notice of Melo Trimble now and devising defensive strategies to keep him in check, because the Big Ten, to me, is a much more physical conference than ACC.
And that's one of the things for a freshman. He does have an NBA body already, and he seeks out that contact. And they're really going to, no matter the size, and when he gets the Big Ten schedule, they're going to test him out to see if he still has that degree of toughness.
Exactly. Yeah, like you said, just watching him play, he's never afraid. He'll always drive up. And obviously, sometimes he doesn't make it, and that's something he'll learn, like kind of more when to do that. But yeah, he's not scared at all, and I love that. And like you said, on the defensive side, I'm hoping DeMonte Dodd and John Graham definitely stand up, because Maryland's going to need that defense. Offensively, I think we're all right, but defensively against the Big Ten schools, you're going to have to not be afraid.
Now, Jimmy, this was a top 10 freshman class led by Melo Trimble, but as I said, the kid Nickens is doing well. Dion Wiley is showing signs, but I'm really impressed with the 7'1" freshman. Wasn't expecting that much from him, but he's very skilled.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name.
It's
You have
hard.
to help me with that. But Tchaikovsky or something.
Something like
that.
that. I
Yeah.
believe that's it is.
Well, he can emerge and help them because in the Big Ten, you need big bodies.
Right.
You're going to go up against Frank the Tank Kaminsky with Wisconsin. You know, Michigan State, they put
They
on
always have a lot of big
football
bodies.
helmets in practice to rebound. So you got to put on your hard hat to go play
Literally.
these guys. Literally. So, you know, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Maryland ranked 21st this week, first time since '09 that they cracked the top 25. So a lot of positives. Unfortunately, that Deswell's injury kind of tempers that enthusiasm. You got to see what's going to happen, especially with the Virginia game coming up.
Right, that's going to be a big game. Is that Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's all. Is that at Maryland or Virginia?
I think it's at Virginia. I'm
No,
not
it's
sure.
at Maryland, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
at Maryland.
But they play a tune-up game against Towson. I think
Okay.
they have Towson.
Okay. Yes,
Before
to
that.
get ready. Now that's the Maryland men's side. On the women's side, they had a huge upset. We won't delve too much on that. But they're
Yeah.
top 10. Oregon State beat them over the weekend in Puerto Rico. But they fell. But they're a top 10 team, and the men are on the rise. But sticking with the men, Georgetown, they were kind of under the radar, and they had a mixed bag in their tournament over in the Bahamas. They were very successful, beating Florida on a last-second shot by Devontae Smith-Rivera. They were on the cusp. They were up by 9 with about 10 minutes to go against Wisconsin. Fell up short, and you figured they would come back the next day and beat Butler. But they lost. They ended up losing 2 out of 3, but I think from a national perception standpoint, they did a lot, beating Florida and taking the number 2 team in the country to the wire.
Right, like you said, beating Florida was a great game, and then Wisconsin, that was an even better game. But I think we're just used to the same Georgetown team we're used to always dominating. And losing to Butler, their Big East rivals, it was kind of like, wow, like this is not the Georgetown team we're used to. But hopefully, obviously, they can bring it back up. We all hope that. And they know they play Towson coming up. That should be an easy win. But if we see them struggle against Towson, I would say we have a lot to worry about with Georgetown.
And the interesting thing about the Georgetown team, Coach Fly, is that they can play at any pace. But so you normally see the more athletic teams, like a Florida, try to run and gun with them, and Georgetown has athletes to do it. But yet, when they run up against a Butler, a tempo pace team, they fall into the trap in playing that type of game, which we saw to their detriment when Wisconsin initially tried to run with them. Georgetown jumped out to a lead, and then they got it back to a pattern game. But I'm impressed with their freshmen as well. And they've got their senior Devontae Smith-Rivera to keep it going. But they have a few freshmen that really stepped up and showed well in that tournament.
Yeah, and Georgetown the last couple years has not had a signature win outside of the Big East. Florida was ranked 18th, so that's going to help them. Wisconsin ranked 3rd in the country. They had them up 12 late before a 24-12 run in Wisconsin favor, iced that game. But they do have 2 games, Kansas coming to the Verizon Center in December, and then the end of December, Indiana at Madison Square Garden. I think they have to win at least one of those 2, preferably against Kansas, because come decision time in March, depending on what they do in the Big East, they're going to need a couple outside of conference victories to get them into the tournament.
Right, and one of the things that's hurt them, and they say they don't factor these decisions into decision-making, Kelsey, they've struggled in the NCAA tournament the last couple of years.
Right.
They've been an upset victim, so it's going to be important that they build up a strong resume, because if it comes down to the end and they're on the bubble, they might look at that history of them not really being the typical Georgetown team.
Exactly, right, because I always put Georgetown up high, and like you said, they've been upset lately, and it's really sad, obviously, but like you said, every game's going to count from here on out, obviously, and yeah, you had like a rough start, but obviously from here on out, it's like get better, get going, be the Georgetown team that this area is used to.
Right, and going back to University of Maryland, it has to be great, because the rumors were starting out as Turgeon's 4th year. Will this, will the rumors start happening? Because they swapped out, and Coach Fly, you can relate to this. He had a very talented class of players that went out, but this class seems like they're more Turgeon-type kids, where he went to the talent before, but now from the talent and the character perspective, guys that are buying into a system, led by McDonald's All-American that's leading the way. It looks like he's got the building block that he wants to turn his program around to that next corner.
Well, you have to take a step back and look at the recruiting process. When Gary Williams left, he didn't deal with certain local individuals. Turgeon did.
Fell into that trap.
And he got fruit from that tree. Although talented, not happy about lack of playing time or other issues. and that causes chemistry problems, locker room problems, and headaches for the coach. He's got guys right now that I think are going to grow together, learn together, and want to play together. When you have that, you can build, you know, going forward.
All right, speaking about going forward, that wraps up the college basketball scene. We're going to go to a break right now, and on the other side, we'll present you with a special feature on the Wizards' recent contest against New Orleans, and we'll recap the week that was for the Wizards and the rest of the NBA with Kelsey Nelson and Coach Jimmy Fly Hillman right after this, so stay with us.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Tough loss tonight for the Washington Wizards. They lost to Atlanta Hawks 106-102. John Wall was the high man for the Wizards with 21 points, 13 assists, and 5 boards. Beal came off the bench and scored 13 of his own points. Otto Porter did play tonight, and he finished with 8. The next home game for the Wizards will be November 29th here against the New Orleans Pelicans.
At halftime of the Wizards contest against the New Orleans Pelicans, the Wizards at 9-5 overall lead the Southeast Division, but for the first time this season they're trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak overall and 2 games at home. They lead 40-36 at halftime. We're going to follow the progress of this game and see if the Wizards are able to be victorious.
Was aggressive, deflections. Now we just got to turn it. You know, our pace is not very good from an offense standpoint, and we got to get our wings to run with John. John tried to push it tonight. We got to get our wings out down the floor in the corner threes, spread the floor in transition. That's what we got to do a better job of right now. We're jogging up and down the floor rather than sprinting from an offensive standpoint. But defensively, you asked me what I thought won the game. I thought that was it. Considering we didn't really have a lot going on offensively, so March it was good to see. He was much more aggressive in his moves. He wasn't settling just for fadeaway jump shots in the post. I got a couple of left-hand jump hooks in the first half and one into the middle. You know, he was really good, and then to back that up with 13 rebounds on top of it, and then have to guard, you know, one of the better players in the league most tonight in Davis. So he had a complete game for us, but it was good to see, and we're him come out and be the aggressive like he was. He never is, you know, doesn't get excited, you know, in times when, you know, they came back and cut it to a 1-point game, and you know, that's what Paul kind of gives us, a little calming influence. In those situations, he was big though coming back in there. I thought Bradley's tip was a big tip, but yeah, Paul was.
Brad, beyond the health, how close are you to getting your rhythm with the starting lineup?
My rhythm's there. I'm fine. I mean, I'm not. Just because I'm not scoring 30 points a game doesn't mean I'm not in the rhythm. So it's just, I'm still within the flow. Marshall's hot tonight. I mean, it was pretty equal scoring tonight. So I'm not complaining about it at all.
On the strength of 24 points by Marcin Gortat and some clutch plays on the offensive and defensive end by Paul Pierce, the Wizards hold off New Orleans by a final score of 83-80. That jumps the Wizards' record to 10-2 overall and 6-2 at home, and they lead the Southeast Division. We'll see if they are able to continue this win streak at home with games against Miami and the Lakers. Reporting from the Verizon Center, I'm Andrew Dyer for the Roundball Report. Now back to the studio.
Great job, Andrew. Now we're back in the studio, and we're joined by Kelsey Nelson and Coach Jimmy Fly Hillman. Actually, great job to Kamal Wilson as well, doing his reporter thing. It just does my heart well to see these young kids.
You look good out there.
Yeah, you look good. And then got another one. You'll be out there soon, one young lady.
She's just going to be a star.
You're calling
I'm
it now.
annoyed now. Right now.
Yeah, all right. Well, speaking about the stars, I meant to say the Wizards are 10-5 now. now. They were 6-2 at home, but I was kind of tired. That was like I'll give you. That was like take 5 on that, and this. But we won't, we leave that on the editing bay floor. But they've gotten off, Jimmy. It was an important game because they had their first losing streak of the season, and they still just didn't have the energy. And one of the things that Coach Whitman was saying, as opposed to last year, they're not getting the easy baskets because they're not able to run in transition, and that's one of the things you lose when you don't have a Martell Webster who's out for injury. They will have him soon, but you also don't have an athletic Trevor Ariza running the wings. He said John was trying to run, but he didn't have any wings to run with him.
Well, exactly. But one of the things with Nene out that I would like to see, because I've been calling for this, I haven't liked that Drew Gooden, DeJuan Blair have not gotten minutes so far in this season. Humphreys has done very well with that second unit. Now, I understand you move him into the first team, but I actually think I would tinker. I like to tinker with things. I would keep Humphreys with that second unit. Drew Gooden and DeJuan Blair started for San Antonio the first 2 years in the league. Those guys are capable starters. You can spot them in there, give them a start, especially Blair, because Blair's an energy guy. I think he can give you energy, especially in the first quarter. He might only going to play 15, 20 minutes, but get the guy in the rotation because I think he can help you in the long term.
And it's interesting, Kelsey, one of my co-hosts for 14 years, Christy Winter-Scott, she was giving me the inside scoop of training camp. And one of the things she said about DeJuan Blair was he didn't practice well. And that's kind of rough when you're going up against a new coach to try to earn those opportunities in a game to show what you can do if you're not practicing hard when you have a front court that's so filled with so many bodies. So he's yet to crack the rotation.
Exactly. I mean, most people know, everybody that's played sports, how you practice is how you play. So it makes it makes sense that obviously he's not in the game. But like you said, I would like to see him start. Humphreys, I agree. I think he's better in the second rotation because watching him play, it's like he gets it sometimes, but sometimes he doesn't get it. But when you have a big body like Nene out, you need somebody that gets it all the time. So definitely, I think, obviously, I hope he does practice better because I would love to see him in the first year.
But Andrew, some guys don't practice well.
Right. I'm
saying you got game tape on this guy. He's a bruiser. All right. He's gonna bang bodies. He's gonna dive on the floor, set solid screens. And Drew Gooden, if you're not going to start Blair, throw Gooden in there. He's a pro. The way I look at it, if this was the playoffs right now, who are you going to put in? Serafin or Drew Gooden?
Right.
You're going to put in guys with experience. I would just like to see them mix up the rotation because that creates competition. Right. And to me, and when Nene does come back, stop playing him on back-to-back nights.
Right, because
he's too
we knew at the
injury-prone.
beginning of the season it wasn't a question of if, but when and for how long he was going to get injured. And it was interesting. I asked the question to Bradley about, when you as a shooter, the health is there, but you got to get a rhythm. And he was a lot easier for him, like you were saying, the second unit. It was a lot easier for him to come back with a second unit and get his rhythm. He knew when the shots were there. But now he's having to try to get used to playing with Paul Pierce and things of that nature. And that's why I was talking about from a rhythm perspective. And it was interesting. He says, no, it's not my rhythm. Then I got home and watched the post game on NBA TV. Rip Hamilton says, well, he just hadn't gotten his rhythm yet. So it's like, players are always going to, be in denial about that. But the reality of it is he's got to get his rhythm, fill his spots out to get back to that 18 to 20 point. Because we were expecting him to make that jump to an all-star this year. And we just haven't seen that yet.
Right. And like you said, I think that's just a part of him being young, right? As soon as you attack his rhythm, he's almost like, I'm still a great player. We know you're still Bradley Bill. We still love you. And you still do a great job. But like you said, right, sometimes some players can bounce back from injury. I know people were talking about Dwayne Wade bouncing back. But he's
got so many years of history.
Exactly, but Dwayne Wade is playing a longer time. But obviously we would like to see him come back, and he does have to find his rhythm. And hopefully he's listening to this, obviously, so he can see what you meant by rhythm.
Right. And Jimmy, one of the things we talk about is the chemistry there. And you talk about the leadership of Paul Pierce. It was very interesting. Martin Gortat had a great game that night, right? So we're in the locker room waiting for guys to come out, and he was the guy interview of the night. So he came out, and, okay, you guys are ready? He took his time, and everybody was waiting. So in the middle of his interview, Paul Pierce comes out of the shower and says, oh, you going to talk to everybody tonight, huh? You going to talk when we're winning? He said, but he stand up, be a man, and speak when we're losing. Franchise player. It's like, wow. He just kept saying, and because when you see guys think, you think it's a joke at first, but Paul Pierce, that's the way that he leads. And it'll be interesting to see, that he has, they said he did that with John Wall and Bradley Beal. He may say that he's following, but but he's trying to lead these guys to say, hey, these are the things you have to do to become a champion.
Yeah, I think he's poking, he's prodding, he's pushing, he's doing things, mental games, because the Wizards got to get tough mentally.
Right.
Yeah.
And that game against New Orleans late,
Paul Pierce had to step up.
I was glad to see, because I said this before, if you're going to close out the game, I want the ball in Paul Pierce's hands or Bill's hands. Pierce hit 2 big shots and then blocked a shot that got them over the hump to close that game out.
Right.
And that's what this guy's done his whole career, and hopefully that'll rub off on John Wall and Bill as they develop their closing skills.
And speaking about careers, you want to give some love out to your professor, Mr. Mark Gray, and your classmates of all the wonderful things you're doing?
So at Maryland, I'm in Mark Gray's class, and thanks to him, I was actually able to help with HSR and radio as well, and do some sideline reporting for them. But Mark has been great. He's helped us tremendously. That's why you saw me at the Maryland game, got reps in. It's obviously great just having that leadership, and that's kind of like, it goes back to basketball too, like Paul Pierce being that leader and watching and learning the rhythm of journalism. But Mark Gray is honestly great. He's obviously one of the best, I think, in the business. So obviously it's great being able to have him as a professor and then also as a coworker. Right.
And Jimmy, you in that HSR and family, you said you got some big games coming up this weekend?
Well, we got Wednesday, we got Coppin at Towson with Lamont Germany making the play-by-play, and me on the color, and then Lex Lakers. Saturday, Howard University, North Carolina A&T. And just real quick, I'm a point guard. She's got rhythm. She can be my shooting guard any day of the week.
So so if I interpret that correctly, next Wizards game, you want to have her. You want to have her be a protege.
Well, I got Janae at power forward. I got Coach Nikki, as a backup point. But she's got it, as they call it.
Well, young lady, keep working on it. Keep
so
listening to Coach, folks like Jimmy and Mark, and getting reps through us. And we wish you much success moving forward. Great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Coach Fly, as always, and catch you on HSRN. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I know you enjoyed it. It was informative and action-packed. And you can look forward for more discussion of high school, college basketball, and professional basketball, special features, interviews with the players and coaches from the high school, college, and professional basketball teams in the metropolitan area on future shows. And remember, what's happening on the court will definitely be around the ball. And for all of your aspiring basketball stars out there, just like Kelsey, focusing on your education is the first step towards making your hoop dreams come true. So until next time, from our coach, Janae Hayes and Nikki Lewis, I'm Andrew Dyer for the Roundball Report. Good night.
Here we are, 2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, and none of us know how to read and write code.
The first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
You're just trying to make something, trying to transfer something from your mind to the computer or to a tablet. It's an experience.
The whole limit in the system is just that there just aren't enough people who are trained and have these skills today.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.